They called it the wish coin, though no one quite knew where it came from. Some whispered it was older than the town itself. A relic passed through dusty antique shops, lost in estate sales, or found behind crumbling walls. Others believed it was a family heirloom from some far-off land, minted in a cursed forge centuries ago. But wherever it originated, the rumors remained consistent. The coin granted any wish you asked of it, yet demanded something in return, something you might only discover once it was too late. Emerson, a young journalist fresh out of college, was always fascinated by local legends. She'd grown up reading ghost stories and unsolved mysteries, enthralled by the possibility that behind every rumor lay a kernel of truth. Upon hearing stray remarks about a cursed coin in her town, she decided to investigate. Friends warned her that messing with such folklore was dangerous, but she shrugged it off. If the coin was merely an old wives' tale, she'd expose it as such. If it was real, well, that would be the scoop of a lifetime. Her search led her to half-forgotten references in local diaries, cryptic online forum posts, and old newspaper columns. Each source pointed to a handful of stories involving bizarre tragedies, improbable fortunes, and vanishings of those who claimed to have used the coin. She couldn't find a consistent timeline, but the pattern of deadly consequences always loomed, overshadowing every miraculous wish. Intrigued, she pressed on. She never suspected her curiosity would lead her down a path where the coin itself would surface in her hands, forcing her to face a terrifying truth: every wish has a cost, and sometimes the debt can be impossible to bear. Emerson's first real clue came from an old library archive. She stumbled upon a tattered local gazette dated 1947 with a small mention of a peculiar coin that turned a farmer's luck sour. The short blurb mentioned a certain Jasper Mullins, who credited a strange coin for rescuing his land from bankruptcy. Within months, Mullins's luck soared: bumper crops, new farmland, and good health. Yet a year later, he was found delirious, ranting that the coin took my family after he made one wish too many. That same day, an elderly librarian caught Emerson reading. Her name was Mrs. Haverford, a fixture in the town for decades. Leaning over, she quietly said, "You're poking at an old scab, child." When Emerson asked what she meant, Mrs. Haverford sighed, eyes clouding. "That coin, people used to hush it up, but I recall my grandmother's tales. It grants your heart's desire, but the price is always dearer than you imagine. Some say it devours part of your soul. Others say it demands a sacrifice from those you love." Despite the ominous tone, Emerson pressed on. She interviewed townsfolk, politely prying about any local legend of a wish-granting coin. Most gave uneasy stares, feigning ignorance. A few recounted murky stories: a teenage girl in the 1970s who somehow had all her bullies expelled, then died in an unexplained accident. A bankrupt shop owner in the 1980s who rebounded spectacularly, only to vanish, leaving his shop behind. All pointed to a coin found under improbable circumstances, used for personal gain, followed by tragedy. Late one evening, scanning microfilm in the library's basement, Emerson found a grainy photograph, a small, round coin held in a gloved hand. The caption read, "Alleged token of misfortune." The date was 1923, referencing a local collector who claimed the coin was minted centuries ago. Then the track vanished. Spellbound, Emerson whispered, "This thing has haunted us for generations." She was determined to find if it still existed. Her break came unexpectedly. After weeks of fruitless leads, she found an anonymous note in her mailbox. "I have the coin. Meet me behind the old chapel on Willow Lane at midnight." The note, scrawled in trembling script, carried no signature. She nearly dismissed it as a prank, but the mention of the coin was too specific. That night, the wind howled as Emerson arrived at the decaying chapel. Clouds shrouded the moon, the only illumination a flickering street lamp. She stood at the back entrance, heart pounding with both fear and excitement. After a tense half hour, she spotted a figure in a hooded coat stepping from the shadows. An older man's voice. "Shaky, you're the one asking about the coin?" Emerson nodded. The man sighed, removing a small cloth pouch from his pocket. "I tried to rid myself of it countless times. It keeps returning. Let it plague someone else or bury it deep." He paused, glancing around in paranoia. Then, handing the pouch to Emerson, he whispered, "Use it or don't. But if you do, God help you." Without another word, he vanished into the night. Left alone in the swirling wind, Emerson carefully opened the pouch. Inside was a small coin, tarnished silver or a dull brass. Hard to tell in the poor light. Strange symbols circled its edge. Indecipherable. A faint hum seemed to emanate from it. Or maybe that was her imagination. Clutching it, she felt a jolt of something, power, or dread. She hurried home, mind reeling with the possibility that she'd finally found the fabled wish coin. Alone in her modest apartment, she placed the coin on her kitchen table, studying its worn surface. She couldn't read the writing, perhaps ancient text. Her rational side said it was just an antique. Yet the rumor insisted one had only to hold it tight. Speak a wish, and the coin would deliver. She thought, should I test it? Hesitant, she decided on a simple, harmless wish. She needed a new laptop for her work, her old one on its last legs. So, with a half smile, she clutched the coin in her palm and whispered, "I wish for a brand new laptop, reliable and paid for, so I can continue my research." A wave of self-consciousness washed over her. It felt silly, but the coin's cold metal pressed into her skin. She sensed a faint tingle, like static electricity. Then it ended as quickly as it began. The coin looked unchanged. The next morning, an unexpected package arrived, a brand new high-end laptop with a typed note, "Your raffle prize." She'd never entered any raffle. She realized with awe that the coin's power was real. Joy surged. She pried the laptop open. It worked perfectly. But anxiety pricked her. What's the cost? That day, her stove broke down, spontaneously shorting out. A minor nuisance, but repairs cost more than expected. She chalked it up to coincidence. Over the next week, small inconveniences piled up, a chipped tooth requiring a dentist's visit, a friend's car door accidentally slamming and bruising her arm. Mild misfortunes, easily dismissed. But a shadow of dread lingered. Was the coin extracting small tolls for her wish? She refused to yield to fear, telling herself these events were normal life mishaps. Yet the pattern gnawed at her. She decided to remain cautious, using the coin only for more significant, worthy reasons. She also wanted further proof. So she prepared a bigger wish, something altruistic or protective. Maybe if the coin's cost was targeted, a purposeful wish might overshadow negative fallout. She had no idea how naive that assumption was. Emerson's friend Carla was battling severe medical bills for her mother. Emerson felt compelled to help. She rationalized it was a good cause, a positive reason to use the coin. So, one evening, she held the coin, focusing on Carla's struggle. I wish Carla's mother's medical debts were entirely cleared, and her treatment funded, she whispered, the coin chilling her palm once more. That weekend, Carla joyously announced that an anonymous donor covered her mother's entire hospital costs. Overjoyed, Carla thanked Emerson for emotional support, never suspecting anything supernatural. For a moment, Emerson felt triumphant. Her story about the coin was proving both its existence and that maybe it didn't always punish with tragedy if used selflessly. But within days, a wave of misfortune enveloped Emerson's close circle. Carla's fiancé lost his job abruptly. Another friend, Eloise, got into a random car accident. Emerson herself had a nasty fall down her building stairs, spraining her ankle. The coin's cost wasn't limited to one person, it spread to those around her. The severity of these events soared beyond normal bad luck. People started noticing the cluster of accidents around Emerson. She lay awake at night, guilt stifling her breathing, convinced these pains were the coin's retribution. She recalled the older man's words, "I tried to rid myself of it countless times. It keeps returning." She tried locking the coin in a drawer, even burying it in a park. Each time, it somehow reappeared in her apartment, on a shelf, under her pillow, in her jacket pocket. She realized the coin wouldn't leave her until its hold was broken or until a final, dire cost was paid. Desperate for a solution, Emerson delved deeper into research. She uncovered bits of local lore describing a demon's coin or the price-bound token, always with the same pattern, ephemeral boons, overshadowed by ruin. Some scribbled references proposed ancient rituals to break its hold, but all were incomplete or contradictory. The best she found, only by passing the coin on under genuine ignorance can one slip its grip. But the consequence for the new bearer remains. That seemed ethically awful, foisting the curse onto another unwitting soul. Another text snippet from a 19th century traveler's diary claimed the coin demanded a final sacrifice if used thrice. Emerson froze, recalling she'd used it twice, once for her laptop, once for Carla's mother. What if a third usage triggers a cataclysmic toll? She vowed never to use it again, though she worried if her prior usage had already sown too much harm. Increasingly, she felt watched. At night, she glimpsed shapes in her peripheral vision, as if shadows lengthened unnaturally. She'd hear faint metallic clinks from the drawer where the coin lay. Sleep became elusive, nightmares haunting her of a monstrous figure whispering, "Pay the cost, or claim another." That weekend, Carla joyously announced that an anonymous donor covered her mother's entire hospital costs. Overjoyed, Carla thanked Emerson for emotional support, never suspecting anything supernatural. For a moment, Emerson felt triumphant. Her story about the coin was proving both its existence and that maybe it didn't always punish with tragedy if used selflessly. But within days, a wave of misfortune enveloped Emerson's close circle. Carla's fiancé lost his job abruptly. Another friend, Eloise, got into a random car accident. Emerson herself had a nasty fall down her building stairs, spraining her ankle. The coin's cost wasn't limited to one person, it spread to those around her. The severity of these events soared beyond normal bad luck. People started noticing the cluster of accidents around Emerson. She lay awake at night, guilt stifling her breathing, convinced these pains were the coin's retribution. She recalled the older man's words, "I tried to rid myself of it countless times. It keeps returning." She tried locking the coin in a drawer, even burying it in a park. Each time, it somehow reappeared in her apartment, on a shelf, under her pillow, in her jacket pocket. She realized the coin wouldn't leave her until its hold was broken or until a final, dire cost was paid. Weeks later, tragedy struck Carla's mother. Despite the paid bills, she contracted a rare complication. Doctors stumped. Carla turned to Emerson, sobbing, "I can't lose her. Please. You're the luckiest person I know. Do something." Emerson's heart clenched. She realized Carla was effectively pleading for a miracle that only the coin might achieve. But using the coin a third time would unleash a final, dreadful price. Could she stand by and let Carla's mother fade? The choice felt impossible. If she used the coin again, she risked a monstrous penalty. Someone might die, or some terrifying event might befall the entire community. If she refused, Carla's mother might perish. The tension was crippling, reminiscent of a twisted moral puzzle the coin forced upon her. She lay awake each night, the coin's presence humming from inside a locked drawer, as though calling her name, mocking her attempts at rational self-preservation. One dawn, bleary-eyed, she decided she'd do the unthinkable. She'd use the coin a third time, but on herself. She'd wish for Carla's mother to recover fully, and if the coin demanded a final toll, it could take it from her. She reasoned. She convinced herself this was a selfless route, perhaps mitigating damage to others. She fished the coin from the drawer, trembling at the cold metal. The symbols seemed to swirl in the morning light. By her kitchen window, the sunrise painting the sky in pale pink. She clutched the coin, with tears in her eyes. She whispered, "I wish Carla's mother is fully healed, free of all illness. No harm to Carla or anyone else." She paused, adding, "If a price must be paid, let it fall on me alone." The coin felt searing hot for an instant, nearly burning her palm. Then the sensation vanished. Hours later, the hospital confirmed Carla's mother made a stunning recovery, beyond medical logic. Carla wept with joy, praising her good fortune. But Emerson braced for retribution, something catastrophic or lethal. Days passed with no sign of immediate tragedy, leaving her in a limbo of anxious relief. Maybe the worst wouldn't happen after all. But then, slowly, an ill wind brewed around her. She began losing pieces of her memory, small lapses at first, forgetting everyday tasks. Then more severe, entire segments of her childhood. The name of her elementary school, the color of her first car. Each day a new blank spot surfaced. She frantically realized the coin was devouring her memories, each stolen recollection an intangible toll. She tried journaling to preserve her sense of self, but even reading her notes felt alien, as if someone else lived those experiences. Within a week, she forgot how she even came to own the coin, her mind swirling with confusion. She recognized Carla, but forgot how they met. She recognized her apartment, but felt it was foreign. Pieces of her identity fell away. One day, she forgot her mother's face. Horror overcame her. This was the coin's final cost, erasing her entire self. Refusing to let the coin claim her mind entirely, Emerson scoured any last-minute fix. She found a hint in an obscure forum post: if one can transfer the coin willingly to someone who truly covets it, the original holder may escape the final toll. But that meant condemning another. She grappled with the moral weight. Letting an innocent party suffer was monstrous. However, the coin's power might lure the greedy or reckless. Could she find someone who wanted its destructive potential? Time ticked as her memory faded. She wrote notes all over her apartment. "You used the coin 3 times. Your name is Emerson. Mother is safe. Carla's mother is safe." Each morning, she read them, tears in her eyes, struggling to piece together who she was. The coin's curse marched on mercilessly. One dawn, delirious and forgetting even her own address, she stumbled out with the coin in her pocket. She ended up near the old chapel again, searching for the man who'd given her the coin or anyone who might knowingly take it. That man was nowhere to be found. She felt a savage conflict. Saving herself might doom a stranger. She recognized that if she died or lost all memory, The coin might just reset, seeking a new host eventually. The cycle would continue either way. In the haze of her fading mind, she realized maybe the best solution was to destroy it. But all accounts insisted it couldn't be destroyed, melted, hammered. It always reformed. Another approach, burying it in sacred ground or tossing it in deep water. People claimed it always returned. Her final plan, get rid of it just before her memories vanished completely, letting the coin remain lost, even if that meant a temporary fix. A half measure. But it might help. Or so she hoped. Armed with a shovel, she drove to a remote area near the orchard behind the old caretaker's farmland. Barely recalling her route, she parked aimlessly. The coin throbbed in her pocket as if protesting. She stumbled deeper into the orchard, mind flickering with half-lost memories. Under the moon's pale glow, she dug a hole as deep as she could manage. The swirling wind felt thick with malevolent presence, but she forced herself to continue. Dropping the coin in, she covered it with dirt, uttering half-forgotten lines from old texts about sealing the curse. Then, in a final burst of resolve, she rolled a heavy stone over the spot, marking it with a chalk symbol gleaned from her scattered research. She collapsed to her knees, tears streaming, unsure if this would hold. The coin might reappear in her drawer tomorrow, but she had to try. The orchard was silent except for a ragged breath. She rose unsteadily, returning to her car, mind a fog of confusion. The next morning, she woke in her apartment with only a smattering of memory. She scanned every corner, half expecting the coin to be on her desk. It wasn't. Day after day, she searched, bracing for its reemergence. Strangely, it never showed. Her memory stabilized somewhat. She remained haunted by large blanks, but the creeping daily vanishings subsided, as though the curse's effect paused. Carla's mother stayed healthy. Carla, though grieving her fiancé's earlier demise, managed to carry on. Nova realized the chain of tragedies, for now, had halted. Months passed. Emerson tried rebuilding her sense of identity. She recognized from her cryptic notes that she'd carried out a horrifying series of wishes, unwittingly unleashing chaos. She felt a hollow guilt about the fiancé's death, about her lost memories, about the man who gave her the coin. She rarely left her place at night, nightmares frequently featuring a monstrous silhouette shaped like a coin's face, demanding more from her. Without full memory, she drifted from old friends, her personality subdued. She no longer chased big stories, instead working menial tasks to keep afloat. Carla tried to bring her comfort, but Emerson's eyes held a distant sorrow. She told Carla the coin was gone, but never fully explained how. Carla, though grateful for her mother's life, sensed Emerson had sacrificed something intangible, and it broke her heart to see her friend a shell of who she'd been. Late one evening, the orchard caretaker discovered fresh dig marks near that old orchard area, the same spot Emerson had used months prior. The caretaker found the hole empty, the stone rolled aside. No coin present. Word reached Emerson, stirring a swirl of dread in her chest. She realized that the coin must have been dug up, by whom or by what remains unknown. She dreaded a scenario where some unwary soul uncovered it. Or perhaps it simply willed itself free. She suspected the cycle would begin again. Now, at night, she stands at her window, staring out at the quiet street, half hoping to see a sign that the coin is done with her. She tries to recall the joys of her earlier life, but fragments remain fleeting. She wonders if the coin carried away her capacity to feel hope as well. She's left with an unshakable sense of gloom, convinced the wish coin roams the world anew. ready to lure someone else into its trap. And if it returns to her, this time, she might not have the strength to bury it again. So the wish coin story endures, a cursed object that offers everything you crave at a price you can't bear to pay. And if you, dear reader, ever find a strangely marked coin glinting in an antique shop or discovered in a dusty chest, consider carefully before claiming it. The wish it grants may well come true, but your final cost could be more than you ever dared to imagine.